Welcome back, deep divers. Ready for another fascinating journey. Today, we're diving into something pretty unique.
Sounds exciting. I'm ready. What have you got for us today?
Okay, so get this. It's called the Cosmino realm. Yeah, the Cosmino realm.
Cosmino realm. Okay.
And it seems to be this whole, cultural phenomenon happening right in Chicago.
Chicago, huh? Interesting.
From what I've gathered from the excerpts, and your amazing notes, by the way, it's a blend of tradition and modern life, like something totally new.
A blend of tradition and modern life. That's a pretty intriguing combination. I'm already curious.
There's even something called the cheergiving, which honestly, just from the name, sounds super interesting.
Cheergiving. Now, that's a word I haven't heard before. What do we know about it?
Well, it's apparently a big part of this whole Cosmino realm thing, and it seems to be especially important when it comes to their final farewell rites.
Final farewell rites. So we're talking about rituals around death and dying.
Yeah, exactly. It sounds like it could be their version of a funeral, but with a twist.
Okay, so Chicago, tradition, modern life, and rituals around death. I'm starting to see the pieces of the puzzle, but I'm definitely missing the full picture.
I know, right? It's like this fascinating puzzle, and we're just starting to put the pieces together. One of the things that really struck me, though, is how this Cosmino realm seems to be directly influenced by the urban spirit of Chicago, whatever that means.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Cities, especially ones as vibrant and diverse as Chicago, can be like breeding grounds for new ideas and cultural movements.
Right. You've got art, music, history, all this energy swirling around. It kind of makes sense that something unique like the Cosmino realm could emerge from that environment.
Absolutely. It's like the city itself becomes a catalyst for creativity and innovation.
But, okay, let's back up for a second. What exactly is the Cosmino realm? I mean, the excerpts describe it as an umbrella term, which honestly feels a little vague to me.
It is a bit vague, isn't it? But I think what they're getting at is that it's not just one specific thing. It's more like a collection of different cultural arrangements or practices, all shaped by this Cosmino spirit, as they call it.
So it's more about a shared way of thinking, a shared set of values or beliefs.
Yes, I think that's a good way to put it. It's like saying the spirit of Chicago itself is what's driving all these unique customs and traditions.
Okay, I'm starting to get a better sense of this. But you know what I'm really curious about?
What's that?
This cheergiving you mentioned earlier, the excerpts call it a play, like a performance. It's not just a somber funeral. It's got spectacle, storytelling, maybe even music and dance.
A play about death. That's not something you see every day. It reminds me of those ancient Greek tragedies, where they use drama to explore those big questions about life and death.
Oh, yeah, I see the connection. It's like they're taking these universal themes and expressing them through performance, maybe even finding a way to celebrate life, even in the face of death.
That's a great point. It's not just about mourning, it's about finding meaning and connection in the face of loss.
Okay, so we're talking about performance, which makes me think about the actors involved.
Right. Who are these characters?
We've got this cheergiving group, the cheergiving Rexley, and the cheergiving speaker.
Those are some interesting titles. Let's break those down, shall we?
Let's do it. Who are these players in the cheergiving performance?
Well, first up we have the Cheergiving Group. They're made up of what the excerpts call, and get this, Moon Zodiborns Loved Ones.
Moon Zodiborn. Wow, that's a mouthful. What do you think that even means?
Honestly, I'm not entirely sure. It's definitely one of the more mysterious aspects of this whole thing.
Moon Zodiborn. It sounds almost mystical, doesn't it? Like, does it have something to do with astrology?
Maybe it could be some sort of astrological connection, or maybe it refers to a specific lineage within the Cosmino realm.
A lineage, like a special family line or something.
Yeah, it could be a way of defining kinship or belonging within this community.
Definitely something we need to explore further. Okay, so we've got this mysterious group of Moon Zodiborns Loved Ones, and then there's the cheergiving Rexley, who seems like quite the character.
Oh yeah, the Rexley. The excerpts describe them performing these really interesting dances. They call them house low moves and house high moves.
House low moves and house high moves. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm already picturing some elaborate choreography.
Right. It sounds like something straight out of a modern dance performance. And here's where it gets even more interesting. They have this title of Rex Chair, but they're not actually the Rex Chief.
Wait, so they have the chair, but they're not the chief? That's kind of confusing.
Exactly. It's like they hold a position of authority or influence, but not in the traditional sense.
Almost like a symbolic leader. maybe representing something specific within the Cosmino realm.
It's possible. There's definitely some historical context we're missing here. And speaking of visual details, we can't forget about the cheer-giving Rexley garb. The source mentions that it changes colors depending on the specific rites.
Oh yeah, the outfit. I remember reading about that. Different colors for different rituals. That's fascinating.
Yeah, think about it. Color symbolism is so powerful in rituals across cultures. Think white for purity, red for passion. These color changes in the Rexley's garb could signal shifts in mood or meaning within the cheer-giving itself.
That's a great point, like a visual language almost.
Exactly. And it makes me wonder, what other symbols and meanings are woven into the fabric of these performances?
Okay, so we've got these intriguing characters and their colorful costumes, but what exactly are they talking about in these cheer-giving performances? We know there's a cheer-giving speaker, but what's their role?
That's where things get really interesting. Hold on tight.
I'm ready. Hit me with it.
The excerpts describe 4 distinct performances within the cheer-giving: back viewing, now viewing, out viewing, and trend viewing. Even the names themselves are pretty suggestive, wouldn't you say?
Whoa, 4 performances. That's a lot to unpack. Back viewing, now viewing, those definitely sound like they're covering different time periods. But trend viewing, that one really piques my curiosity.
It does, doesn't it? It sounds like they're not just focused on the past and present, but also looking ahead to what's coming next.
Okay, so this cheer-giving thing is way more complex than I initially thought. We've got rituals, performances, symbolism, maybe even a bit of fortune-telling thrown in there.
Right. And we're just getting started. There's so much more to uncover.
I'm already hooked. This deep dive is shaking up to be a real wild ride.
Buckle up. We're about to go even deeper.
All right, so we've established that this cheer-giving is like a full-blown performance with multiple parts. It's got characters, costumes, different themes. Makes you wonder, how do they decide when to hold these events? Like, do they have a cheer-giving season? Is it tied to many particular dates or holidays?
Well, the excerpts actually mention a specific time frame. Each cheer-giving performance is held separately and always after the 11th lunar day.
After the 11th lunar day. Okay, interesting. What do you think is the significance of tying it to the lunar calendar? I mean, it's not something you hear about much these days.
Yeah, you're right. But, lunar cycles have played a huge role in rituals and traditions across cultures for centuries. Think about how many holidays and celebrations are actually linked to the phases of the moon.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Like Ramadan or Easter. Those are based on the lunar calendar, right?
Exactly. It often symbolizes a connection to natural rhythms, the passage of time, even a sense of the sacred.
I see what you mean. It's like they're aligning their rituals with this larger cosmic order. Pretty cool, actually.
Yeah.
But it's not just about the lunar cycle, right?
Mhm.
The source also mentions that each performance takes place on specific days of the week, like back viewings on Friday evening,
Mhm.
then now viewing on Saturday morning, and then out viewing in the afternoon, and trend viewing on Saturday evening. It's almost like they're building up to something, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. There's a deliberate progression here. It's like they're creating a narrative arc, moving from the past to the present and then ultimately towards the future.
Like the acts of a play, almost.
Exactly. Which ties back to that initial comparison we made.
Yeah, it all makes sense now. And the fact that it all takes place over a Friday and Saturday is interesting, too. I mean, Friday often has those connotations of endings, you know, transitions.
The end of the work week.
While Saturday is more about new beginnings and leisure, it's almost like they're using the weekend to reflect on the past, assess the present, and then look ahead to what's coming next.
That's a great observation, and it really speaks to the level of thought and intentionality that goes into every aspect of the cheergiving. It's not just about going through the motions, it's about creating a meaningful experience that resonates with their community.
Speaking of creating a meaningful experience, what about all those rituals they perform before each cheergiving performance? We've got the cheergiving asking, where they seek permission from the Moon Zodiborn elders, and then there's the cheergiving arrival and the cheergiving parade. Why all this pomp and circumstance?
Well, I think it's about creating a sense of anticipation and excitement, like setting the stage for something special is about to happen.
Right, building up the drama.
Exactly. And remember, rituals often serve a purpose. They help establish a sense of sacred space and time, separating the ordinary from the extraordinary.
Okay, that makes sense. But then you have the cheergiving asking. They're seeking permission from those elders before they can even begin. What do you make of that?
I think it suggests a deep respect for tradition and hierarchy within the Cosmano realm. Like they're acknowledging the authority of the elders and seeking their blessing before they proceed.
It's like a way of honoring their ancestors and ensuring that the cheergiving remains connected to its roots.
Exactly. But then you have the contrast between the cheer-giving arrival and the cheer-giving parade.
Right, they both involve processions, but the parade is specifically for the out viewing and trend viewing, and it's described as being really slow and rhythmic. And they use these house high beats. What's with that distinction?
It's fascinating, isn't it? I think it's all about creating a sense of anticipation and grandeur, especially for those performances that deal with the future and the unknown.
So they're basically hyping up the audience.
Exactly. They're heightening the drama, preparing the audience for something momentous is about to unfold.
And then after all that buildup, you have the cheergiving singing.
Oh, yes, the singing. Tell me about that.
Well, it seems like a moment of quiet reflection before the main event. The cheergiving speaker performs this sentimental song, and everyone stands in a circle holding hands.
That's beautiful. It really creates a contrast to the more energetic elements of the cheergiving. It's a reminder that these performances aren't just about spectacle, they're also about exploring deeper emotions.
Yeah, it's like a moment of connection and shared humanity. Okay, so we've talked about the roles, the timing, the rituals. Is there anything else we need to consider before we actually dive into the content of the cheergiving performances?
Well, there is one more element we haven't touched on yet. The cheergivingments. These are objects or props that are mentioned in connection to the back viewing and now viewing performances.
Cheergivingments. Okay, those sound intriguing. What are they exactly?
Well, the source describes them as being used to review past and current events. It's like they're using physical objects to represent ideas or events, almost like visual aids to help tell the story.
So they're like tangible representations of history and current events. That's a cool idea.
It is, isn't it? And what's really interesting is that the source doesn't tell us exactly what these cheergivingments are. It's left open to interpretation, which is where things get really fun.
Oh, I love a good mystery. So we get to speculate.
Exactly. We can start to think about what kinds of objects might be meaningful to this community, to this city. What do you think they might use to represent historical events or current affairs in a place like Chicago?
Hmm, that's a good question. Knowing Chicago, it could be anything. Maybe a miniature replica of the Bean sculpture, a vintage Cubs jersey, a piece of artwork from a local artist, heck, even a deep dish pizza. The possibilities are endless.
Exactly. And that's what makes this so intriguing. The cheergivingments become this window into how the Cosmino realm sees the world, what they value, what they remember. It's like a form of cultural expression in itself.
I can already picture these scenes in my head.
Hmm.
The cheergiving speaker holding up a faded photograph of a famous Chicago landmark while talking about a historical event. Or maybe they're displaying a new gadget while discussing the latest technological trends. It really brings the whole cheergiving to life.
It does, doesn't it? And it makes you wonder, what stories are they telling with these objects? What messages are they trying to convey?
That's the million-dollar question. And it's one we need to keep in mind as we delve into the content of those back viewing and now viewing performances.
Oh, right. Context is everything.
But you know what? We've already covered so much ground, and there's still so much more to explore. I'm feeling a little overwhelmed.
I understand. It's a lot to take in, but that's the beauty of a deep dive, isn't it? We're uncovering layers of meaning piece by piece.
True, true. Okay, let's take a deep breath and get ready to tackle those back viewing and now viewing performances. After all, we need to understand their perspective on the past and present before we can even begin to speculate about their visions of the future. All right, so we've really dug into the structure and rituals of this cheergiving, but now I'm dying to know what they actually talk about during the performances, especially the out viewing and trend viewing. Where they're looking to the future and exploring trends. It seems like they're trying to predict what's next for the world and their community. What do you think is driving this fascination with the future?
Well, I think it reflects how fast the world's changing, especially in a city like Chicago. And they're not just accepting those changes. They seem to be actively trying to understand them, maybe even shape them through this ritual. It's quite proactive, actually.
And remember, the out viewing is supposed to be the climax of the whole cheergiving. That's a lot of pressure on the cheergiving speaker. Can you imagine having to predict the future in front of a whole crowd?
It's definitely a big responsibility. And yeah, I can see how it would be nerve-wracking, but it shows how much importance they place on knowing what's coming next.
What I find really interesting is that they don't just focus on like global events or political predictions. They also have a whole performance dedicated to trend viewing, which covers things like technology, movies, video games, all that cool stuff.
Yeah, it's like they're saying the future isn't just about those big events. It's also about how we live, how we entertain ourselves, how we connect with each other.
Exactly. It's about culture. And it shows they're really paying attention to how culture is evolving. What specific trends do you think they might highlight?
It's hard to say for sure. The excerpts don't give us specifics, which makes it even more intriguing. I guess we can only speculate based on what we know about the Cosmino realm and Chicago.
I'm already picturing them holding up a smartphone, you know, and saying something like, this little device has changed how we communicate, how we work, how we see the world. Or maybe they're showing off some new video game that explores a futuristic city.
Yeah, those are great examples. And it makes me wonder if they use any of those cheergivingments we talked about to bring those trends to life.
Oh, good point. Those visual aids, imagine them demonstrating a new invention or even acting out a scene from a popular movie. That would be so cool.
It would be very engaging for the audience, and it would give us a more concrete idea of what they consider trendy or significant.
But beyond the specific trends, I'm curious about the overall tone of these performances. Are they optimistic about the future? Fearful? Are they trying to warn people about potential dangers?
Those are important questions. Unfortunately, the source material doesn't give us a clear answer. But I think that ambiguity is part of what makes the cheergiving so compelling. They're not dictating a single viewpoint.
So it's more about starting a conversation.
Exactly. It's a space for dialogue, reflection, maybe even debate about where we're headed.
It's interesting that they've chosen to frame all of this as a performance, a play, especially considering they're dealing with some pretty heavy themes. Death, the future, the constant change happening all around us.
It's true. There's definitely a creative, even playful element to it, which I find refreshing.
It speaks to the resilience of the human spirit, doesn't it? Even when faced with uncertainty and change, we find ways to express ourselves, to connect with each other.
I couldn't agree more. It's a powerful reminder that even in the face of the unknown, there's still room for beauty and meaning.
That's a beautiful thought. And I think it's a perfect note to end on. We've learned so much about the Cosmino realm and this cheer-giving ritual. We started with a mystery and ended up exploring ritual, performance, and this deep human desire to make sense of the world around us. It's been a fascinating journey.
It certainly has. Thank you for having me.
And to all you deep divers out there, thank you for joining us on this incredible journey. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and until next time, keep diving deep into the fascinating world of human culture.